The knock came just past midnight, soft, hesitant, almost unsure. I was half asleep on the couch, the glow of the muted TV flickering against the walls. At first, I thought I imagined it. But then it came again, 3 quiet taps, deliberate this time. When I opened the door, there she was. My neighbor's mom. 46, maybe 47, though her presence made age seem irrelevant. She stood in the hallway wrapped in a deep blue robe, loosely tied, a shadow of silk against the dim light. Her hair, dark with a few silver strands catching the glow, fell in soft waves around her face. She didn't look like someone who belonged outside at this hour, but she carried herself as if she knew exactly what she was doing. "Sorry," she said, her voice low, husky with hesitation. "I didn't mean to wake you." I shook my head before I could even find words. "You didn't." Silence stretched between us, not uncomfortable, but charged, like the pause before lightning strikes. She shifted slightly, the robe loosening just enough for the neckline to slide lower, revealing a glimpse of collarbone. Her hand rose instinctively to pull it closer, yet she didn't tie it tighter. "I couldn't sleep," she said finally, eyes searching mine. Not demanding, not playful, just honest. I nodded, though my throat felt dry. The air between us carried warmth, faint perfume mixed with something softer, more intimate, like the trace of her bedroom she'd carried across the hall. "Come in," I murmured. She stepped across the threshold, and suddenly the world shrank to the small space of my living room. I turned off the TV, and the room was left in shadows, the only light spilling from the hallway behind her. She stood there, fingers grazing the edge of her robe, as if she needed something to hold on to. "You don't have to entertain me," she said, but her voice betrayed her. There was something beneath it, something that asked for more. I tried to smile, though it came out softer than I meant. "You don't seem like someone who knocks without a reason." Her lips curved slightly, not quite a smile, more like the beginning of one she tried to resist. She walked further in, her bare feet making no sound on the floor. I watched her movements, how carefully she carried herself, as if every step mattered, as if she was aware of my eyes tracing the lines of her. When she sat on the edge of the couch, the robe shifted again. My gaze caught the subtle movement of her leg beneath it, the light brushing of skin against fabric. She noticed. I know she did, because her eyes lingered on me in return, steady, unflinching. "You're quieter than I thought you'd be," she whispered, tilting her head, studying me. "I could say the same about you." She laughed then, soft and low, but it broke too quickly into silence. Her hand rested on the cushion between us, fingers so close I could feel the heat radiating. My own hand twitched, wanting to close the distance. Her robe slipped again, this time without her fixing it. The soft curve of her shoulder caught the dim light, and she looked away, just for a second, as if she'd revealed too much. When her eyes returned to mine, there was no hesitation left. The room felt heavy with things unspoken. My heartbeat filled the silence. I leaned in, just slightly, enough to catch the warmth of her breath when she exhaled. Her lips parted, whether to speak or something else, I couldn't tell. And then, a sharp sound broke the stillness. The handle of my door turned. The door clicked shut again, the sound echoing through the silence. Whoever had tried it must have realized they had the wrong apartment. My chest was still tight, the thud of my heartbeat refusing to slow. She hadn't moved, her body angled toward me, robe slipping further down her arm as if the interruption hadn't happened at all. "Strange hour for visitors," she murmured, voice a little shaky now. I nodded, though my eyes refused to leave hers. "You too." Her lips curved in the faintest smile, but it disappeared as quickly as it came. She leaned back against the couch, exhaling as if she'd been holding something in. For the first time I saw it, the cracks beneath her composed exterior. A woman who carried herself with poise, yes, but also with the kind of weariness that comes from years of being everything to everyone. "I don't usually," she began, then stopped. Her hand lifted, brushed through her hair, then fell back into her lap. "Never mind." The silence pressed in. I found myself asking before I could stop, "Do you ever get lonely?" Her eyes snapped to mine, sharper than I expected. She studied me for a long moment, then gave a slow nod. More than I'd admit. Her voice softened, her throat catching slightly. It's been a long time since anyone's noticed. I swallowed hard. The weight of her words pressed against something in me. My own history was shorter, but still marked with the sting of people leaving too soon. I wanted to tell her that I understood the hollow ache of empty rooms, the silence after a door slams, but the words stuck. Instead, I looked at her hand resting on the couch. My fingers twitched again. I shouldn't. The world would judge it. Neighbors whispering, her friends raising eyebrows, my own peers laughing or calling it reckless. Yet none of that seemed to exist in this small pocket of air between us. You shouldn't ask me things like that, she said finally, breaking the silence, though her tone was soft, not scolding. Why not? Her laugh was bitter, almost inaudible. Because it makes me want to answer. Her robe shifted again as she leaned forward, and her shoulder brushed mine. Just a whisper of contact, but it jolted me, like static against skin. She didn't pull away immediately. Instead, she lingered, close enough that her breath warmed the side of my neck when she exhaled. My throat tightened, my hands gripping the edge of the cushion to stop myself from reaching for her. She noticed. I saw it in the way her lips parted, in the flicker of hesitation in her eyes. Then, slowly, deliberately, she pulled back, tucking the robe tighter around her. But the distance didn't last. When she spoke again, her hand lifted, brushing lightly against my shoulder, an excuse, maybe, to emphasize her words. The touch lingered longer than it needed to. You're younger. You don't understand the weight of things like this. I met her gaze, my voice quieter than I intended. Maybe I understand more than you think. Her fingers froze on my shoulder, then fell away. For a long moment, neither of us moved. The room was filled only with the rhythm of our breathing, uneven and too loud in the stillness. Finally, she whispered, almost to herself, you shouldn't make it this hard to stay away. And yet she didn't leave. Her hand, trembling slightly now, brushed against mine on the cushion. Neither of us pulled back. The space between our fingers vanished. Her fingers rested against mine, just barely, the lightest contact, but enough to unravel me. I didn't move, afraid that if I did, she'd retreat again. Instead, I let the silence stretch, heart hammering in my chest, breath caught somewhere between restraint and surrender. Then her phone buzzed. The sharp vibration against her robe startled us both. She pulled her hand back as if burned, fumbling to silence the device. A name flashed briefly across the screen, someone I didn't recognize. Her jaw tightened as she declined the call. Sorry, she whispered, though her eyes didn't meet mine. But I saw the flush on her cheeks, the quick rise and fall of her chest. She wasn't sorry, not about the call, anyway. About us. About the invisible line we were towing and the world that could shatter if anyone noticed. She began, but stopped, her voice faltering. I leaned in before I thought better of it. Should what? Her eyes flicked to my lips, then away. Leave. The word didn't sound certain. It sounded like a question. We were too close now. The warmth of her knee pressed faintly against mine, her robe brushing against my arm with the slightest movement. I could smell her perfume, faint but unmistakable, blending with the warmth of skin that felt just inches away. The hallway outside creaked, footsteps. Someone passing by. We both froze, instinctively leaning closer together, as if secrecy demanded proximity. The sound faded, but neither of us moved back. Her hand rose, almost without thought, and hovered near my face, close enough that I could feel the ghost of her touch. My breath hitched. She noticed. Her lips parted, and for a moment, the space between us shrank to nothing. I should have kissed her then. Every nerve in me screamed for it. But instead, I hesitated. Guilt tightened around my chest. What if the wrong person saw her leaving here? What if the whispers started? I was 23. She was 46. To the outside world, it would never look like what it really was. "I don't want to ruin you," she whispered suddenly, as if she had reached into my own thoughts. "You won't." My voice cracked more than I wanted. Her laugh was small, bitter. "You don't know how cruel people can be." "Then let them," I said, softer now. Her eyes lingered on me, the conflict written in the tension of her jaw, the tremble of her fingers. She leaned in, so close I could feel the warmth of her lips hovering above mine. The pause stretched unbearably, the silence filled with the frantic beating of my heart. And then, another sound. A sharp knock at my door. We jumped apart, breathless, both staring at the door as if it had betrayed us. Neither of us moved to answer it. Instead, in the hush that followed, our shoulders brushed again. Her hand found mine under the cushion, hidden from view, squeezing tight, an anchor, a confession without words. The knock came again, louder this time. We didn't let go. The knocking stopped, but the echo of it lingered in the silence, like a warning neither of us wanted to hear. She still hadn't released my hand beneath the cushion. My palm was damp, not from nerves alone, but from the pressure of her trembling grip. "Maybe I should go," she whispered, though her voice betrayed her, shaky, uneven, longing. "Do you want to?" My words came out harsher than intended, edged with something closer to desperation than reason. Her eyes darted to mine, wide, almost startled. "Don't ask me that." "Why not?" "Because I don't trust what I'd say." The tension coiled tighter between us. My free hand lifted before I could stop myself, brushing a loose strand of hair from her face. She flinched, not away from me, but inward, like the touch broke something she'd been holding back for too long. "Don't," she whispered again, but it came out softer this time, almost pleading. My fingertips lingered just at her temple, grazing her skin. The robe shifted again, exposing more of her collarbone, the faintest outline of her beneath. I forced myself to breathe, to anchor against the pull that kept dragging me closer. "Tell me to stop," I murmured, my voice low, too close to her ear now. Her breath hitched, sharp and quick. "I can't." Her confession landed heavier than any kiss could have. She leaned forward slightly, her forehead almost brushing mine, her lips just inches away. The scent of her, soft, warm, familiar now, wrapped around me, and I nearly gave in. Nearly. "Do you know how long it's been," she said suddenly, voice breaking into fragments, "since I've let anyone this close?" The pain in her tone made my chest tighten. "Then let me." Her eyes searched mine, desperate and conflicted, as if I was asking for more than she could give. "You're too young," she said, though it sounded like she was trying to convince herself. "Maybe you're just too scared," I countered. The words hung there, heavy, undeniable. She blinked rapidly, her composure unraveling. "You don't know what I'd lose." "You'd lose nothing," I whispered back. "You'd only gain me." That broke her. She turned away for a moment, pressing her hand against her mouth, as though to hide everything she couldn't say aloud. When she looked back, her eyes glistened, raw and unguarded. And then she leaned, slowly, deliberately, until the tip of her nose brushed mine. My heart raced, my body frozen in the tension of the almost. Her lips hovered above mine, parted, waiting. I could feel the warmth of her breath, the tremor of hesitation that held her there. 1 second longer and nothing would ever be the same. And just as I moved to close the final distance, she whispered a single line, her voice low, fierce, unforgettable, "If you kiss me, I won't let you go." The air cracked between us. Her words hung between us, heavy, irrevocable, "If you kiss me, I won't let you go." The silence afterward was unbearable. I could still feel the heat of her breath, the nearness of her lips, but she pulled back sharply, as though afraid of her own confession. Her robe shifted with the sudden movement, and she clutched it closed, knuckles white against the fabric. I sat frozen, every nerve still buzzing. "You meant that," I whispered, not as a question but as a truth I couldn't ignore. She shook her head, eyes flashing, not denial, but fear. "You weren't supposed to hear it. I was right here." Her laugh was sharp, broken. "That's the problem." Before I could answer, her phone lit up again on the couch. A message this time, not a call. The glow illuminated her face in the dimness, and I caught the look that passed over her expression: guilt, regret, something she hadn't wanted me to see. I glanced at the screen before she could turn it over. The name. It was one I recognized. My mother. My stomach dropped. She froze, realizing too late that I'd seen. Her robe slipped again, unnoticed this time, and her trembling hands fumbled to silence the phone. "It's not what you think," she whispered, but her voice cracked, betraying her. "What is it then?" My chest felt tight, breath unsteady. Her eyes pleaded with me. "She doesn't know. I never told her. It was just conversations. Late night talks, because she worried about you. Because she cut herself off, biting her lip hard. Because you what?" She pressed her hands against her robe, as though she could hide behind the thin fabric. "Because I wanted to know you before I let myself feel anything." The revelation hit harder than I expected. All this time, she'd already been closer to my life than I realized. My mother's friend. My neighbor. And now, here. Inches away, trembling between restraint and surrender. "You should hate me," she whispered. "I don't." Her head snapped up, eyes wide, as if the words alone undid her. She stepped toward me, too quickly, then stopped herself, close enough that the sleeve of her robe brushed against my arm, close enough that I could feel the warmth radiating from her body. Her breathing was unsteady, shallow. "I should walk out that door," she said. "But you won't." The tension snapped again. She moved past me, brushing against my shoulder, the silk of her robe whispering across my skin. I turned, following her movement without thinking. She stopped by the door, her hand trembling against the handle. For a second, I thought she'd leave. Instead, she let go of the handle and pressed her back against the door, eyes shut, chest rising and falling rapidly. "Every reason I had to stay away," she whispered, "just disappeared the moment you looked at me like that." I stepped closer, each movement deliberate, until there was no space left between us but the charged air that held everything unspoken. Her hand rose again, almost unconsciously, resting against my chest, feeling the quick rhythm of my heartbeat. She didn't move it. And I didn't step back. Her hand still rested on my chest, trembling but unwilling to let go. I covered it with mine, pressing it firmer against me, letting her feel how fast my heart was racing. "You hear that?" I whispered. Her eyes flicked up, glassy with conflict. "That's why I can't stay. Or why you should." The distance between us was a fraction now. Her back against the door, me inches away, our bodies aligned but not touching. Every part of me ached to close it, to erase the line she kept drawing only to step over again. "You're too young," she said, but softer this time, as if she'd lost the strength to believe it. "Then stop looking at me like you want this too." Her lips parted, but no sound came out. Instead, her fingers curled into the fabric of my shirt, holding on as if she needed the anchor. I leaned in, my breath brushing her cheek, my voice low at her ear. "Tell me to step back." She didn't. She only tilted her head, just slightly, exposing the curve of her neck. The faint scent of her skin filled me, warm and intoxicating. My lips hovered there, a whisper away, and the air grew impossibly heavy. "If we do this," she whispered finally, voice breaking, "I can't undo it." "Neither can I." The words hung between us like a vow. My forehead touched hers, the contact small but enough to send a tremor through both of us. Her breathing quickened, shallow, uneven. She closed her eyes, as if surrendering would be easier in the dark. For a moment, neither of us moved. The tension was unbearable, the restraint fraying at the edges. Then her hand slipped higher, grazing my neck, pulling me closer without meaning to. "You don't know what you're asking for," she said. "Yes, I do." My voice cracked with the weight of it. "I'm asking for you." That broke her last defense. She let out a shaky laugh, one that was half a sob, and pressed her forehead harder against mine. Our noses brushed, lips barely apart, a breath away from colliding. I thought she might pull back again. She didn't. Instead, she whispered the words that sealed it, "Then take me." The world stopped. I closed the final distance, not in a rush but in inevitability. The kiss wasn't soft, it was trembling, messy, filled with years of her restraint and months of my silent wanting. It was too much and not enough, a confession neither of us could speak in words. When we finally broke apart, both breathless, her hands still gripped my shirt like she'd drown without it. My own hands framed her face, thumbs brushing the heat of her flushed skin. She opened her eyes then, looking at me with a clarity I hadn't seen before. "Now you understand." And I did. Everything unspoken between us was finally undeniable. There was no going back. The silence after our kiss stretched long, but it wasn't empty. It was full, charged with the weight of everything we had finally admitted without words. Her hand slid down from my chest, but instead of letting go, she laced her fingers with mine. That single gesture said more than any speech could. We stood there, still pressed close, just breathing each other in. For the first time, neither of us tried to pull away. Her voice was quiet, fragile in a way I had never heard before. I've spent years convincing myself I had to be strong. That I couldn't need anyone. I squeezed her hand gently. "And now?" She looked up at me, her eyes softer than I'd ever seen them. "Now I realize I've just been waiting, for someone who would see me. Really see me." The truth of it broke something open inside me. I wrapped an arm around her, pulling her against me fully at last. She leaned into my chest, her head resting just below my chin, and I felt her body relax, as though she had been carrying invisible weight for years and finally set it down. "I don't care what anyone else thinks," I whispered into her hair. "This isn't about them. It's about us." She gave a quiet laugh, the kind that was half relief, half disbelief. "You're 20 years younger. People won't understand." "Then let them not understand," I said, pressing a kiss to the top of her head. "We know what this is." Her fingers tightened around mine again, as if anchoring herself to the moment. For a while, we didn't speak. We just stayed there, her heartbeat against me, the faint warmth of her breath on my chest, the kind of closeness that didn't need explanation. Eventually, she tilted her head back to look at me. "You realize this won't be simple." I smiled, brushing a strand of hair from her face, letting my hand linger at her cheek. "Nothing worth it ever is." She closed her eyes at that, leaning into my palm. And when she opened them again, the hesitation was gone. What remained was something steadier, deeper. A quiet certainty. We sat down together on the couch, still holding hands, still unwilling to create distance. She rested her head against my shoulder, and I rested mine lightly on hers. The room was dim, the night wrapping around us, but inside that quiet space, everything felt clearer. No more running, no more pretending. Just us, two people who had finally admitted what had always been there. Her last words before drifting into silence were a whisper, but they stayed with me. "Stay." And I did. The night wasn't about passion or urgency anymore. It was about presence, about knowing we had crossed a line we would never step back from, and choosing to stay on the other side together. Whatever came tomorrow, we would face it. Tonight, we belonged to each other.